Hello, Keith Rucker here at VintageMachinery.org. Guys, today, yet another cane mill. These things are just coming in out of the woodwork. I've got them piled up all around here that are needing work done to them, and this is one of them that was brought in by a customer that's wanting to do a restoration on this thing, get it back up and running. Don't really know much about the condition of it and really won't until we get into it. I'm not sure if this one has, it's got bronze bearings in it. It looks like inserts, so it is what it is. We will probably make patterns and cast new bearings for this, I'm guessing. But before we do anything, I just need to get it taken apart and kind of give it a good looking at and see what needs to be done to it. I don't think there's anything major wrong with it, but we won't know that till we get it taken apart. And that's what we're going to be working on today. I've actually got another mill I may try to get to as well. We'll just see how this goes. And get these things torn down. First step is getting them disassembled, see what needs to be done to them, and then I send these out and have them sandblasted at a shop that's not too far from here that specializes in doing that. So let's get in here and see about getting this thing taken apart. I think step one is going to get the little cross beam off the top. This is where a pole mounts to. And basically the way this thing was powered, it was mule powered. A mule would just walk around in a circle. That's what would turn the mill. This was a rather large mill. This was probably a 2-horse model. So it would have taken 2 horses, a team of horses, to walk around. And it was just bigger so that it could handle higher capacity of cane. There's 2 slots in the side to feed cane into it, rather than a typical 1-horse mill that would only have 1 slot to feed in there. So you can just process more cane quicker with this big mill, but of course it took more horsepower. And when I say horsepower, I mean literally horsepower, because that's how this mill was powered back in the day. Let's see if we can get this thing off. This top piece just kind of sits down on a squared taper that goes up. They're usually stuck pretty good. I usually have to get out the torch and do a lot of beating on them to get them to come apart, but so far I've been able to get them all apart. But that's got to come apart because this top casting has to slide up over this to get this thing taken apart. There's no other way to do it, so let's work on getting that taken apart. All right, I got a chain on here and I got the gantry. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of pick this thing up just a little bit, just enough to kind of get it hanging here. And that puts the weight of the mill kind of going down on it, holding it. The way the mill kind of pulling down on this, and I'm suspended it by the top piece here. And that way when this falls out, it doesn't have far to go. It's just going to fall a couple of inches. But the weight of the mill is kind of pulling down on that center section. I'm going to get a hammer and a big punch or something and see if I can tap on that, beat on that, whatever you want to call it, and see if it'll go ahead and break loose. If not, we'll get some heat on this collar. Usually between the two, they'll break loose. So let's keep our fingers crossed it doesn't fight me too bad. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned it. This is a Chattanooga plow company mill, and it is, a number 14 size. Just because I know somebody's going to want to know. So, all right, let me see if we can get this thing to break loose. All right, let's see what we can do here. I got a punch and a 4-pound sledge here. That doesn't seem to be doing nothing. So let's go get the torch and put some heat on it. All right, here we go. We'll just gently add some heat in here and warm up this casting and see if it'll break on loose. Let's put a little more pounding on here. Well, as I'm sitting here looking at this, I think someone took a welder and put a little bead right up there at the front and maybe over here at the side. I see some, it's hard to tell. It's kind of rusted and pitted in there, but I think someone tacked that thing on. So I'm gonna let this cool down and get in there probably with a die grinder or something and see if I can grind out some of that weld and see if we can get it out. Yeah, it's gonna fight me. I let this cool down overnight, and this morning I came out and I took a die grinder with just a rotary file and kind of filed out, ground out that area in there where it looks like there's some weld. And I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna use my press and see if I can press this apart. So if you watch my channel regularly, you've seen this little contraption here come out before. This is just a little homemade hydraulic press that I made that's kind of portable, and you can put it on something like this that I can't get it over in my actual hydraulic press back here. This is not something I can just set up there and press. So I basically got this frame, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put a block down here on the bottom. We'll put a hydraulic jack in here, and I'm just gonna see if I can press it apart. If I can't get it apart with my jack, I've got some cylinders in there, 50-ton, 100-ton cylinders that I can hook up to the Porta-Power pack on my hydraulic press and really put some pressure on it, but I'm hoping it's not gonna take that much force. So let me finish getting this set up, and we'll press this thing apart, hopefully. All right. I got my jack in here. It's pushing on the center. Basically, these cross arms are supporting the bracket, so we're separating the two. Got the hydraulic jack in there, and I'm just gonna start putting some pressure. And that's all it took. It just needed to be punched apart. All right, we got it. So I think we're ready to start taking this one apart. I did get it picked up off the floor and kind of up on a workbench. It's just sitting on my big heavy-duty sawhorses. I just find it a lot easier to work on this up at height rather than me having to get down on the floor. My old bones just don't like getting up and down very much anymore. So let's get in here and see if we can start taking this off. I'm gonna start with these bearing caps up here, see if I can get those out, and we'll just kind of work our way down. This old mill is pretty nasty. It's got dirt and acorns and leaves and everything else in it where it's been sitting out, but we'll get her squared away here. Let's see what we can do to get her taken apart. Start by putting a little bit of penetrating oil on some of these fasteners here. Can't help or can't hurt anything. I'm using CRC Knocker Loose. This is a penetrating oil that I have found works pretty darn good. I know everybody's kind of got their favorites, but this is readily available. You can order it on Amazon, places like that, but it really works good. No, they don't give me any discounts or anything like that to recommend their products, but I have found their products to generally be pretty good over at CRC. All right, got that cap off. I'm gonna get something to put all this hardware in so it doesn't get lost. Let me just grab a bin. Another little handy item is to have some of these little plastic bins around. I just ordered some new ones because I find when I'm working on projects, I take and put my hardware and stuff in these, and then projects sit around sometimes for a while before you get them done, and I end up with a bunch of little bins full of parts laying around the shop, and then I don't have bins to put stuff in. So anyway, I just ordered some new ones off of Amazon, and anyway, let's see, is that one coming off? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think that's spinning in there. Yeah, there we go. Now, these parts are all going to get sandblasted. I've got a pallet over here. I'm just going to pile everything on that pallet, and then we will take it to the sandblasters and let them get all this cleaned up. Generally, when I do one of these mills, I will replace all the hardware with new hardware. The steel stuff, I find, tends to rust and rot, whereas the cast iron generally holds up to rust a lot better than steel does. So I replaced the steel parts. So I do like to keep them though, just so that I have the original hardware when I go to put it back together, so I know what I need to order and what I need to make to get things going. So I'm just backing this set screw off, or hopefully I can get these top bearings out. All right, there we go. Just kind of stuck down in there. All right, so I will note here that this mill is made by Chattanooga Plow Company out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. And as is common on a lot of these Chattanooga mills, they have bronze inserts for bearings that go in them. And this one is worn down. I mean, it's paper thin on the top. These need to be replaced. And, back in the day, you could just call up Chattanooga, order new bearing inserts, which is a really nice feature. Of course, these guys were long gone, so you can't just order these anymore. Most of your cane mills I run into have Babbitt bearings in them. And, the nice thing about those is that I can re-pour those without any much trouble. Whereas these, I have to make patterns and have new cast. Now, sometimes I will just pour Babbitt on these. I'm going to probably see about drawing these up and getting some new bearings cast for it. It's just a better option, I think. It's a little bit more expensive and a little bit more work. Once I get the patterns made, though, the next time I have one of these mills, I've got that done. So anyway, it was a nice feature back in the day, but now it's aggravating because you just can't get them. But anyway, I will see about getting some new bearings cast. Let me get the other ones out and we'll continue down this thing. Got the second bronze out, and look there, that one's just completely eaten away. It's gotten so thin. And actually into the cast iron backer plate. Yeah, we'll have to make some new ones. I'm sitting here looking at the back bearing, and it had at one time a bronze bearing in it, but it's completely gone. Looks like they just put the cast iron piece in there. Interesting. I don't know that I can get this one out. I'm gonna probably have to pull the whole top off and then get to that one. Let me see if I can get my bolts off. Well, that one was easy. These are supposed to be bolts that go all the way through, but the bottoms have rotted out. So there was actually nothing holding the tops on. Interesting. I'm looking down into the bottom, in the bottom of these are in there, but they're just rusted out. All right, we'll continue on. Let's see the other ones. All right, that one seems to be intact. That one there, I can see right here, it's almost completely rusted out in the bottom. Let me zoom in and show you that, because this is what happens with this steel hardware. So if you look, this is that bolt going down through, and right down on the bottom, it's rusted right there where it meets to the cast iron. That thing's rusted. It's not even half the diameter right there. I imagine when we go to loosen this up, it's probably just going to break off right there. In fact, let me get a wrench and see what happens when I turn it. All right, I'm just going to try to loosen this up, and when I do, I think it is going to unscrew from the top. How about that? So that is coming off up here. And try the front one too here. Yeah, it's gonna come off too. Good. My penetrating oil did the trick there. There's this little side panel here. This is where the cane feeds in. And I note that there's some break in the casting down here. It's gonna work just fine, but that casting is broken and this casting here is broken as well. But again, it's working just fine. I'm not gonna worry about this, but ideally that wouldn't have that little piece cracked out there or there. But that's just the way it is, and we're gonna work with it like it is. Let's see if I can get this to break loose. Let's see if I can get in here with this Sawzall. There we go. All right, that panel is out. I think I'm ready to pull the top off of this. To do this, I got a couple of C-clamps kind of clamped to the top frame here. I got some blocks of wood to kind of get my clamp under the lip. And we've got this on the gantry, and I'm just going to use the gantry to hopefully just lift this right up. Yeah, it's going to come right up. That's what we want. That's dragging a little bit. That would be way too heavy for me to just lift up. All right, I got about 6 inches of height left on my gantry here with this particular strap on it. I'll bring that down and we'll get that put over on the pile to send out for sandblasting. Okay, so you can see what a mess we got in here. Dirt, grime, dirt dauber's nest, spider webs, you name it, we got it in here, but I think we got this coming apart nicely. So now I'll go around these little side panels. They just all come off. I'll get those out of the way, get them over into the pallet to be sent off for sandblasting. All right, I'll grab a brush and just see if I can kind of clean up some of this mess on here. All right, these gears should lift up. Just getting the pry bar up underneath them, just kind of loosening them up a little bit here. Let's see if I can get that one off. All right. Go. And we got the big gear, and that was going to be too heavy for me to pick up. Let me see if I can come up with something to lift this with. I got 2 holes in the casting. Let me see if I can get something in there to lift that up with. So I just took a pry bar and kept prying this up, putting shims up underneath it until I could get a couple of C-clamps on the outside and a strap. And again, we're just going to lift it up now on the gantry. And this should just come right up and over. There we go. All right, get that over on the pallet. Continuing on, we'll get the scraper out And let's get these rollers next. I had to come out of my sweatshirt. I was getting warm in here, moving around. It was cold when I first came down to the shop, but it's amazing how you start warming up. All right. This mill is frozen up. Normally those rollers should be kind of rolling around loose. All right, I'm gonna have to break these things loose. I'm gonna go get a lead hammer and see if I can just kind of persuade them out. They're just kind of rusted into those bearing blocks down below. No telling what the bottom journals look like. All right, so this is a lead soft-faced hammer. Shouldn't damage the journals. All right, that is kind of loosened up a little bit there. That one's loosened up a little bit. Let's get this top one. Man. It is tight. Let's see if I can get these to come out. I'll tell you, I'm going to loosen up these set screws on the bottom. That should give me a little bit of room down there in those bearings if I can get these to turn. Ugh, man. Let's try that. All right, so now that roller just needs to lift up. I don't know if I got enough strength to do it. Let's see if I can do it, or I'm gonna have to get the gantry. All right, I'll have to see if I can get a strap around the bottom of that or something and pick it up. If I can just get this roller kind of up out of it, I think I can pick it up and handle it. I just don't have enough strength to deadlift it straight up and kind of get it unstuck here at the same time. Look at all that dirt and stuff that's down in that bottom journal. That is not good. All right, I'm going to just kind of pull this off. There is a cast iron collar down here that kind of protects stuff running down into that bearing, theoretically. And this roller's heavy, but I think I can pick it up and get it over to the pallet. And we got these bottom bearing cups, and again there's a brass insert that goes down in there that is very, very thin. All right, what a mess. And need to do the same thing on this side. Let me get this one up and out of there. Let me see if I can get that to come out. See if I can just get it out of there without having to hook up the gantry this time. There we go. Got that to come loose. The journals actually don't look terrible, but I'm sure, well, I can see that was worn about 1/8 of an inch. I'm gonna have to weld them up and build them back up, but they're not in terrible shape. I've seen a lot worse. All right, got it. Again, there's a bronze bearing shell down in there. We'll figure out what to do with those later. All right, it's picking up the whole bottom, so I'm going to just see if I can tap on this and see if I can get it to come on out. I think that got it. There we go. All right. I think that'll clear. What a mess. So here's the bottom bearing. What's left of it. It is in two pieces. Half of it was strung all the way around over here, and that wasn't from me doing my stuff because that was stuck in there. I mean, it's been that way for a while. All right, there's what's left of that bearing shell. All right, I think all that's left here to do is we got to get this little plate here off the bottom and get the screws out of the side here. I need to take a punch and punch these. These were the ones that rotted out. There we go. Good. I'm going to take a few minutes and try to get as much of this dirt out of here as I can, and we'll flip it up and get that piece off. Well, that's all the stuff I picked up in here, not counting what I vacuumed out of there, but full of crud. There is a little bearing backer in here. I couldn't see it a while ago because it was so covered up in mess. Where'd my punch go? Here we go. I'm going to try to knock that out. It's coming slowly but surely. All right. That's what that bronze bearing fits down over. And we'll get that cleaned up. It'll fit down in there better. It's just full of dirt right now. Let me slide this back, get that rod out. Yeah, look how worn that is right around the bottom. That's where these things just rust, right there at the bottom. Not unusual at all. See if I can get this other one out. Same thing. And I got this piece here. I don't know if we're going to get that out or not. We'll try. I think I'm just going to take a zip wheel on the grinder and grind that off. I do like how they got these recesses in here for the square head bolts to capture down in there. It's going now. There we go. And that is just rusted away in there. So the last thing I want to try to do is get these set screws out of the bottom. These are long bolts. There's a captured square head bolt up in here. I'm going to see if I can screw them out using an impact wrench. The ones on the top I had to actually just cut. All right, that one came out. And you can see it's kind of an unusual, got a long square head on it. And there's the nut that goes with it. I'll have to make some new ones of those. don't think it's going to come. It's just too galled up on the inside. I'm just going to take my cutting torch and I'll get down there and just cut that off. I've got one here that I can use to copy it from. Well, there we go. We got all the components of this cane mill over here on a pallet. This is ready to go to sandblasting. I think I'm going to hold off doing the second cane mill, mainly because I can only put one pallet in my back of my truck at a time, and this one's pretty much full. I'm afraid by the time I loaded it up with a second cane mill, I'd be throwing parts all over the back of my truck. And I've got some other stuff that needs to go that I think will make a good batch for another run. So I think we're just going to stop here today. I'm going to run this on down to get sandblasted. Well, there we go. One cane mill disassembled and ready for blasting. This one, it wasn't too bad. It did fight me a little bit, but nothing we can't handle. And, you know, once he gets back from sandblasting, I can really assess things a little bit better. But just my first impressions, I did not see anything in here that looks really like a major problem. I think probably the biggest challenge we're going to have on this one is the bearings being bronze. I'll have to model up a pattern in CAD, make a pattern, send it off to the foundry, have some cast in bronze, bearing bronze, and get them back in here. I've actually modeled bearings for other size Golden's mills that are the same style as this bearing here. My other ones, though, are a different size, so they obviously won't work. So I'll do that kind of off camera, but I'll just usually model them in Fusion 360 and then 3D print a pattern and send them off to Windy Hill Foundry for casting. The bearing journals on these are not bad, but they are worn. They're going to have to be welded up and turned down, but in the grand scheme of things, they're really not bad at all. In fact, and I may even explore this when we get them back from sandblasting, I may not weld them up. I may just turn them down just a little bit undersized. Since we're making new bearings anyway, we can make them fit. And one of the kind of nice things about these Chattanooga mills as compared to the Golden's mills that I see a lot of is that the journal sizes on the three shafts are all the same. On the Golden's mills, the journal on the big roller is larger than the journals on the smaller roller. And what makes that nice is that the drop-in inserts on these are all pretty much the same. At least, see, 6 of them are the same. The 2 for the ones that go in the cups, those are a little bit different style. It's just kind of a little sheet down in there. And a lot of times I just put Babbitt in those. We'll just have to see how it goes. But there you go. That's kind of where we're at. Like I said, I'm going to load this up. I'm going to run it on down here today to sandblasting. I don't know how backed up those guys are. Sometimes they can get stuff done in a couple of days. Sometimes it takes a couple of weeks. With Thanksgiving right around the corner, they'll probably be off a little bit. I don't know. We'll see how long it takes. Not in a huge rush, but and what I will do is I will just get them to sandblast this when it gets back in the shop. I will prime and paint everything. I've got to talk to my customer and find out what color he wants this painted. And we'll go from there. So more on this project down the road. I do have another Golden's cane mill. It's an old style cane mill. It's actually the one that predates the ones that we've been restoring before. Same basic principle, but it is a little bit more primitive, and it's a kind of a rare mill because there's just not many of them that have survived. But I've got one of those we're going to be taking apart. It's much smaller than this one. And like I said, I got another thing I want to get sandblasted, so I'll probably do all that at one time. We'll probably work on that here in the next day or two. I'm kind of waiting on some stuff to get into the shop, so I've got a little bit of downtime, so I'm trying to get some of this stuff knocked out while I can. All right, guys, with that, that's a wrap for the day. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Those thumbs up and comments are always greatly appreciated. Hit that bell icon up there to get notifications when new videos are posted. Big, huge thank you to those who support the site financially through Patreon, PayPal, and YouTube memberships, all which are great ways to help support my channel or any other YouTube channel out there. It just goes a little bit above and beyond. If you feel like you're getting value out of the content, consider making a little extra contribution because it really, really does make a difference. Guys, with that, we'll get out of here. We'll catch you on the next video again. As always, thanks for watching.